I snatched a train ticket for midnight. As I entered the platform, a strong smell of blood hit me. The train attendant explained into a loudspeaker. Just now, a passenger brought a large bag of animal entrails. It spilled and was a bit heavy. Passengers don't need to panic. Several staff members on the platform were mopping the ground, carrying several very large black packages. I paid no attention as I walked into the train, sat by the window, and habitually looked out. The black package carried by a staff member suddenly burst open, spilling out dismembered limbs and blood, including a mutilated upper half of a body. I could vaguely see the body was wearing a train attendant's uniform. That person crawled on the ground with only 2 arms, lifted their head, and our eyes met. My heart skipped a beat, and before I could react, the staff member who had been carrying the bag stomped on the person's head, crushing it. A huge fear suddenly enveloped me. I wanted to get off and escape, but the next moment, the train started. I immediately buckled my seatbelt. I felt my body couldn't withstand the acceleration pressure. The feeling of being near death overwhelmed me. Just when I thought I was dying, a warm large hand, full of calluses, pressed on my shoulder. A hint of warmth restored a bit of my consciousness. Another deafening sound came from the train accelerating and stopping. My mind went blank. My muscles and bones were all in pain. I cried, breathing heavily. Cries of horror and vomiting filled the entire carriage. The carriage was silent for a moment, then came amplified chaos. What's going on? How can it be so fast? So many people died. Where's the train attendant? The conductor? The train crew? You murderers. The seatbelt won't unbuckle. Damn it, will anyone explain what happened? I immediately tried to unbuckle the seatbelt on me. It was easy to open just now, but now it won't open. And it's tighter than before. Although it doesn't restrict my upper body movement, it's impossible to break free. I looked at the uncle beside me, who also had a pale face and shook his head at me. I'm sure the seatbelt is fine. Also, the train's acceleration just now was very strange. Even if a high-speed train accelerated regardless of everything, it would never reach that speed. I tried to breathe calmly and rationally. Not only were there no signals or networks on these trains, but also the scene I saw at the platform just now. How could someone's head be crushed by a foot? All this was too bizarre. Just then, the broadcast sound echoed again in the train. Congratulations to all passengers who survived the acceleration. There were 85 passengers in this carriage, and currently 49 are alive. Well, there are still too many living passengers, because the train doesn't need so many living people, so this carriage has thoughtfully arranged a murderer train. When the lights go out, the murderer will kill one person. After the lights come on, everyone votes. If the murderer is voted for, they pass the round. If the murderer is not voted for, the game continues. Additional rules: the person with the most votes is considered to have been voted for. Everyone has the right to abstain in each round. The person voted for, whether or not they are the murderer, will die. The murderer has no voting rights. Everyone cannot vote for themselves. Votes are cast in the pocket on the back of the seat. I wish all passengers good luck, and I also wish the murderer good luck. The countdown for the first round of voting starts. Begin. The broadcast sound ended abruptly. The display screen above the carriage door showed the time reset and began counting down again. I glanced at the countdown on the screen, then immediately looked at the seat back in front. A remote control was bulging inside the bag. I reached in and indeed pulled out a remote control. The remote control had number buttons 1 to 9, and other buttons A, B, C, D, E, F, confirm. It was simple and clear, no explanation needed. These buttons could vote for any passenger in the carriage. After the train's acceleration, everyone no longer doubted the broadcast. A minute later, everyone gradually calmed down and began to discuss the broadcast. We still need to find a way to find the murderer. How? We have no clues at all. And we're all tied by seatbelts. Exactly. The bastard behind this wants us to kill each other. Then what should we do? Wait for the countdown to end and be killed? But it just said that the person who was voted for, whether or not they are the murderer, will die. If we vote wrong, we'll become murderers too. I watched as time ticked away. The entire carriage became increasingly chaotic, from discussion to argument. Everyone quiet down. Just then, a middle-aged man in a shirt shouted loudly twice, his rough voice covering the noise in the carriage. The carriage fell silent for a short while. Everyone quiet down. Arguing about who the murderer is now is meaningless. Look at the rules of the game. We need to find the murderer based on clues. We currently have no information and cannot deduce who the murderer is. When the murderer kills in the first round, we can deduce the killer based on sounds, bloodstains, and other information. So what everyone needs to do is to pay attention to the movements around them after the countdown ends. The broadcast just said that we can abstain from voting in each round. To avoid meaningless casualties, let's all abstain in the first round. After his words, almost everyone in the carriage agreed. It seemed there was no better way now. The valid information was too little. Suddenly, a middle-aged woman screamed. I know who the murderer is. I looked in the direction of the voice. It was the mother of the 2 boys who had been running around in the train before. The middle-aged woman looked at me and pointed at the uncle beside me. The murderer is that person. He doesn't look like a good person at all. I think he's the killer. He escaped from prison. I looked at the uncle beside me, who just bowed his head slightly, not reacting. One side was aggressive, the other silent. More and more eyes turned to the uncle. If this continued, the uncle would be voted out in the first round. Do you think he's the murderer? You have no evidence and you're spreading rumors? How is that different from a murderer? You little waste. You're helping this old criminal, aren't you? The evidence is that he killed my 2 children. If it weren't for him, maybe my 2 children would have returned to their seats and played. I didn't hold back. This woman was not worth pity. I immediately retorted. Those 2 kids of yours, you let them run around because you didn't teach them properly, that's why they died. And those 2 kids just now forced many people to unbuckle their seatbelts, directly killing how many people? I'm going to kill him. Let him pay for my son. Damn old man, let's see how you pass. As she spoke, she raised her hand, lifted the voting device, and pressed the button. I noted down her seat number and also picked up the voting device and voted for her. No one else in the carriage voted, not even the uncle beside me touched his voting device. I hate myself. I've had enough of this game. It doesn't matter if I die. 5 minutes passed quickly. I didn't have time to review and confirm. The next moment the screen went blank, the voting results appeared on the left. 9D got 1 vote, 12C got 1 vote. Both were tied, so the vote was invalid. I quickly summarized 2 valid pieces of information: voting is not anonymous, and a tie is invalid. The next moment, the lights in the carriage suddenly went out. It was so dark I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. I don't know how many minutes passed, but the lights in the carriage came on. Sight and hearing returned. The time on the carriage screen resumed counting down. Then, a shriek came from the source of the sound. The person opposite me is dead. Their neck was pierced by something. They're still bleeding.